It's the Advertising Week Social Club podcast. I'm Doug Zanger, and well, I guess we would say very special guest. Dave, well, you're very special.
Depends who's listening.
That's a good point. All right, so, well, come on. David Droga, you're a very special guest.
Thank you. I suddenly feel special.
And we are here at Droga 5 in New York. And we're going to talk a little bit about the International Andy Awards here in a second. But what we want to talk about is just sort of leading up to the awards. We're going to start out just talking about bravery. And this is what this conversation will be mainly about. And let's just start out with this. Let's go with the not so easy question first. What's the bravest act in business or in our industry that you've ever seen, in your opinion?
I think it's not as neat as just one definitive answer there. I can't say there's one act, but I feel like you see it over and over again, and I've seen it throughout my career. I think at any point when somebody does something that is rubbing up against something where there's risk. So anyone that really gives their real opinion in defiance of somebody that's paying them money or that's their superior in a business corporate ladder thing, I think that is bravery. You know, I mean, I think bravery is being yourself and being comfortable enough that, you know, it's all proportionate, right?
Right.
The level of bravery is sort of the flip side of that is proportion to the level of risk involved in that. It's not brave to be outspoken or to agree with somebody or to be different if there's no risk involved.
Right.
So I think, you know, we're an industry that's a service industry. By nature, we are there to serve, which, you know, we have to give good service. Okay, right. And that can be through our thinking, through our ideas, through our meetings, relationships. And part of service doesn't necessarily mean disagreeing or standing up in opposition of. And, you know, a lot of clients pay people to agree with them. You know, I'd like to think people pay me and our people here to have an opinion.
Do you think that I've in the past called that the money gun pointed squarely at you? I mean, does that cloud thinking and does it cloud? I mean, you brought up that it clouds the bravery.
Look at our industry.
But how do you get past it?
Well, you actually care about the industry and you bet on yourself, right? I feel like that's the thing. I mean, if we were a brave industry, 90% of the industry wouldn't be shit, would it?
That's a very good point.
You know, that most of the stuff that we see that we all sort of turn a blind eye to or we ignore, that's because the industry is complicit. Right.
Let's talk a little bit about bravery outside of the business as well. What's
real world bravery?
No, it's true. I mean, no, because you're right. Because we live in our, you know.
It's true. It's actually true.
It's the truth. Outside of this business, what do you think the bravest act that you've ever seen, heard of, outside of business? Because you're right. Because even though it's not in our little world, it can help inform potentially some of the things that we do in our world.
I think people who do incredibly selfless things at risk of massive injury or worse, you know, to do the right thing by something they believe in. Right. I find that shockingly intimidating, and I admire them so much.
That's such a great word for it. It is intimidating
because it also you know, you can admire someone so much for that bravery, but it also makes you question yourself. You know, nurses who go to different parts of the world, or just in a general public hospital, doctors who go to war-torn countries,
right,
for not glory or pay, but literally every day there's a chance they could be like. That makes my mind want to explode, and I'm so grateful that those people exist in the world to offset the other, you know, those that aren't like that. I mean, it's that, and it's intimidating because it really makes you not only appreciate them, but also make you question how brave I am as an individual. Right. Like, would I be willing to put it all on the line for something I believe?
Right.
Would I, you know, at what point? Everyone has principles and things that they stand for.
But there's always like that one thing though that takes them over to that point that it's like they believe in it. So I mean, probably for me, my kids.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like your kids are really the only non-negotiable thing in your life.
That's true.
You know, and it's really the first and only time that, you know, there's no question.
Yeah, no shit.
You know, it's true. You know, I'm a father of 4 kids, so, you know, it's crazy. So I'm held hostage 4 times over, but that's really, I mean, there are those people who just, and for some people it's religious, for some people it's principled, and for some people it's just, you know, for the benefit of humanity. And I just think that is unbelievable. And I, again, those that do it for the right reasons,
right,
that is real world bravery.
I love it.
I just think that's extraordinary.
Yeah, I agree. Look at me agreeing with you.
No, but
I'm not being brave. I'm teasing.
It's also brave to agree with things as well. Like being different or contrarian to things isn't necessarily brave if you're doing it just for effect.
Right. No, it's a really good point. So, we touched on sort of the money side of the equation, but what are some other reasons that you think people are afraid of bravery or afraid to be brave? What are the things that either emotionally hold them back, at least in your experience and within the context of our industry? What holds people back?
I'm not a psychiatrist in any way, shape or form. And bravery is an overused word as well. But
Sure.
I feel like everybody's risk averse by and large to a certain degree.
Sure.
And that's as much about, it could be just about people don't want to be embarrassed, or people actually self-preservation is a strong motivator.
Right.
So people like to be sure that, things are okay and stable.
Right.
And, to rock the boat in any capacity is unnerving for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like the middle and vanilla and all these wonderful things, and just as I said, just because you push up against something, you also learn something about yourself. Because to say you stand for something or to have principles, you really don't know until you actually put it out there. Do you know what I mean? I feel like
when was the first time you realized that you kind of put it out there? Do you recall that?
Well, I mean, I've always been, always sort of bet on myself in a sense, and I don't mean that through pure arrogance, even though I'm arrogant enough. But I feel like more, I just thought it was. There's a lot of naivety in that as well. I just wanted to, I always wanted to take charge of my own career. But I feel like the real test for me was, I've been very fortunate where I've sort of went up the corporate ladder through agencies, big networks, quite relatively fast around the world, from running companies to running networks to groups and stuff. And you get into positions where you get the job that you think is the pinnacle. Suddenly you have the biggest job in a network, and you have the biggest title and the biggest office and the biggest salary and all these things that you think are goals. And you walk into meeting rooms and everybody agrees with you, not because they necessarily agree with you, but because they feel like they have to agree with you, and all these sort of. And you find yourself talking about what you believe in and your principles of things, but you're not adhering to any of them. You're suddenly coddled, and as I said, everyone looks to you for your opinion, and you've got these things. And I suddenly found myself in an environment where I was so coddled, and I wasn't testing what I thought I stood for, and I was, again, that's part of my personality as well. I'm very competitive, and I was like, you know what? The only way if I can really see if I am what I say I am and what I believe in is to do it. So this is where my little competitive prick part comes in. I was like, I'm going to quit the job that no one has the balls to quit. Right? Who would quit this job and go to try and start their own thing with just the Jerry Maguire moment where you walk out with a box? And I thought I wanted to do it, and I was at an age where I really believed that I wanted to do it my way. I wanted to test whether my way was right for me. It doesn't have to be right for everyone else.
Right, no, it's true.
And the thing about it is the biggest risk, there wasn't huge risk in that, because, I'd also had had earned or had enough of a reputation that if it blew up in my face, I could always get a job somewhere.
Sure.
But, I know that's really where you question yourself when you take all the hype out of a situation. You're left with what you really think and what you believe, and you want to exercise that. And I was at that age where I was like, you know what? No matter how high I've got in other people's corporations, and, I've had a great career and I'd worked for some great people and proud of the work, I was still someone else's puppet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could still feel the strings of somebody else. Maybe there was just one person above me, but whether that be an actual person, or it be a culture, or it be someone set in motion, I wanted to see what I could do myself.
One of the things that I'm noticing, at least in our industries, and and you're not short on candor, seriously. But one of the bits of candor that I'm seeing a lot from people is the phrase "I don't know." Is there bravery in saying
Completely.
I don't know?
Completely. You don't always have to be right, and you don't always have to know. I think that's true. I think it's so refreshing and honest. That goes back to, I remember. This may seem like a minuscule story to make that point, but I remember there was a director I admired very, very much. Just when I was running Saatchi in London, and he was like the director that everyone sort of wanted to have in a meeting. And he came in and we got him to work on this thing, an NSPCC ad, beautiful ad. And in the pre-production meeting, the client asked him a question. And I remember it was like this pregnant pause of a couple of minutes, and it was painful, the pause, and everyone was sort of looking at each other thinking, is he forgotten what the question was? And he just turned and said, I don't know. And I remember thinking, God, that's genius, because it's so true. it made me really realize, like, again, you don't have to always be that person that has the pithy answer and the spontaneous thing, because also when you acknowledge that you don't know things, that puts more weight and value on the things you do know. And again, I feel like sincerity goes so much further than being pitch perfect. There's 1,000 people, million people in New York City slicker than I am, or better prepared than I am, or better on their feet, but I don't try and emulate who they are. And you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be just Mr. Slick. I'm just, I want people to know that when I say something that I mean it or believe it. Doesn't mean I'm always right. And you always have to be prepared to acknowledge that if you're wrong and that you take on the ramifications of that. But authenticity is and sincere is undervalued.
And it's brave, definitely.
Yeah.
Bravest woman in the world to you?
Well, obviously the appropriate answer is, you always go your mother or mothers.
Right.
I mean, I think that's true. But I think I've touched on, but I think nurses.
Yeah.
I just think nurses, it's unbelievable. They get none of the glory and all the gore.
True. Bravest man in the world?
That's a tough one because I feel like, again, not that I'm staying just in the medical arena, but, I would say, the doctors that go to parts of the world. There are places that people go to where people feel even uncomfortable reading about.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? People have to turn away from news and articles and stuff where there are people who go there, and that is just extraordinary. And they can be people fighting for freedom. They can be people fighting for justice. They can be people, going to help people. Again, it just blows my mind. It's just unbelievable. Thank goodness there is the counterbalance of that much good in the world.
Amen.
To counterbalance all the sort of the greed and negativity.
No, it's very true. Very true. Let's talk. We'll talk shop and a little work here. Think back about the bravest work that you've ever seen, and think about it early in your career. What was some of the bravest work you first saw, and what effect did that have on you?
The first person in any category that breaks ranks and does something appropriate but different.
Right.
So not just different for the sake of it, but just something you're like, it just changes a whole category. And you watch the wake of what they do, the whole category usually follows and tries to emulate. I always think that that's incredible because, we're an industry of paint the numbers by and large, which scares me. And people like the familiar. So I think someone that sort of breaks out of that, work that realizes you don't have to bang people over the head, that, tries to be emotional and tries to be sincere. And again, that is, sometimes it's admitting their faults or sometimes it's not trying to overreach. They're the brands that almost treat me like a human, not like a target market. I always think.
Was there one that just kind of stood out to you, though? Do you remember? Even before you got in the biz?
Very early, I'm showing my age here, very early on, I used to look to, as someone growing up in the industry in Australia, I used to look to some of the work in the UK. I just thought it was so refreshing and amazing, from the Hamlet cigars and the Heineken work and the Guardian newspaper. It was just it was smart. You know what I mean? And the funny thing is, like, smart was almost a bad word to be used in advertising. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone's sort of like, well, let's dumb it down, and everyone doesn't care. And, and that's one of the beauties of, when English advertising is at its best, it's like, it's smart. It treats the consumer like a normal person. And, and I feel like that's where I looked at some of those campaigns and thought, gosh, once I'd seen that work and I realized that you could be that interesting and smart and relevant and stand out, I was like, that's why I only want to try and be the best at what we do. And I only want to try and do what's right by our clients and not just try and do like a quick joke for the sake of a joke or something that's patronizing. Or I just thought that's amazing. And then, I feel like that's work to me that was amazing. And then you see it for, I don't know, some of the original, some of the Honda work that was done in the UK, last 10 years, and some of the Nike work, obviously, the original Nike stuff. Just work that game changer. But then, even though I wasn't around that generation, it hasn't changed that much. What originally Burnback did, that would be world-class work today if that was right. That'd be better than almost anything.
Isn't that interesting? You take a look at all.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Some of that original stuff, you're like, it was so on point, because what everyone else was like, advertising is about cramming a message and a sales pitch down someone's throat until they're gagging on it. They're like, no, let's just have people like us and understand that it's as much about the personality of who we are, and that's memorable as much as about just hammering it home. And that was brave to transform it. They didn't just do it for the client; they transformed a whole industry.
No,
we still look on it with admiration.
That's true. It's very true. What's the bravest work that you've ever done? And when I say that, I'm also including work that never saw the light of day. I've got lots of those, by the way.
Yeah, we all do. We all have those. They're woulda, shoulda, couldas.
Right.
I don't know. There's different things for different stepping stones in my career that I was like, that was brave to push for that. I mean, there's stuff that for us, I mean, there's the first thing we did at this agency, I think, was on paper, maybe it's convenient to say it, but one of the bravest things, because it set in motion a way of tackling things internally and a belief that we should always go in to present a client what we believe is the right thing. And that was for Mark Echo. And that was a thing where we were really in uncharted waters. The idea was we had to convince a client, and to the client's credit, it wasn't that hard to convince, which was shocking in itself. But we want to rent a 747 and pretend that we've broken into Andrews Air Force Base and spray paint the plane. And our whole media strategy was to game the whole news cycle. This is before Facebook and Twitter, social media could sort of call out, but we knew that there was enough with YouTube and stuff. And we were relying on the laziness of the news media to get it out there. But at the same time, we were uncharted waters. We were told we had to have lawyers in the meeting because we were told that we're potentially breaking the Patriot Act.
What?
Because we were told that because we wanted people to believe it was real, to game the system, that if Air Force One was in the air and had to be turned around or grounded because someone thought that people had got to the plane, then we were breaking the Patriot Act and we could go to jail. Now, think about this in context. So this was an agency, we were 4 weeks old.
This is 4 weeks in.
Yeah, we were probably three and a half people in the office. And our reaction was, my reaction was, let's do it. Because being a naive Australian, I was like, wow, Patriot Act. Can't be that serious.
Right.
And B, you know what? It'll be the shortest lifespan of an agency ever, but it will go down in flames.
Right.
And we also bet on ourselves. But we knew it was the right thing to do. I mean, I wasn't a total schmuck. I mean, I sort of did, I raised it with the client, and I did try and get them to sign some sort of, gave us some sort of, I don't know if immunity is the right word or whatever it is, indemnity or something. But,
right.
But it was then. I mean, there was there was that one point where you're sitting, we're sitting in a room, honestly. I remember making this joke. We're sitting in a room, we had photos drawn from everywhere we could of Andrews Air Force Base from every side, because we wanted to be so accurate, this thing. From every camera shot had to be like, if anyone who knew anything about it, because we made it thinking that people would stop it frame by frame to see if it was real.
Oh, so yeah, you got to go that deep.
We did. So we did it painfully slow, overindulgent, because if someone had done that, they wouldn't have been crisp edited. They wouldn't have been edited in a crisp way. We knew that they'd have to scale 2 fences, go over a golf course, da-da-da-da. So we had this war room as such, covered with every photo, with literally lines drawn from where that would aim at the plane, going, shoot from here, da-da-da. So if you were, FBI or something that kicked open our door, you would honestly think that we were about to attack, not like film, but attack the president on the plane. I remember thinking this would be the hardest thing to explain.
That would be pretty hard to explain.
But it was, anyway, I mean, it was a great experience. And, that was only right for that client because, he started life out as a graffiti artist. That's how he built his business. It was very much, his target audience was very much against, stick it to the man. We thought it was the climate. Everyone was so paranoid. We knew the news media would just latch onto it and love it. And we knew that even if they knew it wasn't real, they would push it out there for enough time to think it was real. People break into Andrews Air Force Base. Check it out at 11 o'clock. That gives them content. And it exploded. I mean, it was perfect. I mean, we had more people. I had more people send it to me as a real news item. And I had to bite my bottom lip, not tell them for like 4 days before the Echo came out.
The gig was up.
Yeah. But it was... So that was, maybe that's sort of a convenient, neat story because it was the first thing, but there was real truth in the fact that it set in course emotion in here, which was go to your client, what's the right thing. The right idea might be the most traditional. And that's braving as well, to resist being different and weird and crazy.
Yeah,
if the right idea is full-page print ads in a local newspaper or radio ads, if that delivers what our objective is, I'll run into that and be happy to do that. And if the right idea is to blow up the moon, I'll blow up the moon.
Right.
Try to.
Right.
But, I want...
That might violate more than just the Patriot Act.
That might be a little bit of an issue. The tides would be missed. But I feel like that's the thing. Like, I wanted everyone in this agency, and still to this day, everyone knows that the freedom is to do what's right and what we really think we can do, as opposed to sort of set in course thing. Well, people expect us to be do this. And, it's brave to do what you believe, not what you think everyone should.
Still, my favorite brave thing that you did was giving McGarry Bowen the Christmas card business.
That's so funny. But people love that. It's so funny. That was just
It was hilarious.
Well, it was funny because it was a statement that was...
Well, they were winning everything.
Well, that was the whole joke, right? That was the whole thing. I was like, what? This agency that, obviously smart people running it, and they play it well. They're, very different to us. Very, 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 very different to us. But, they were winning everything. It just made me laugh. I was just like,
So wait, do you have an April Fool's joke coming up?
No.
You don't. Do you have another one?
I think everyone expected us to keep on doing that. I was like, no. That was a spontaneous thing. We wrote it in half an hour and just put it out there and thought, you know what? Screw it. I want to make again. No one wants to have fun or make a statement in the industry, and it wasn't really an attack on them.
Not at all.
As such, it was just an attack on. It was being playful. I mean, it was a little attack on them, but it was more meant to be about the industry and the statement of what's going on. And
well, it brings up an interesting point. I mean, we are in a competitive industry, competitive people, competitive business. I mean, there's bravery in the notion that we sort of stand together and fall together as well. I mean, what's your expectation of not just Droga 5, but what's sort of your expectation of what we should be doing to continue to be brave as an industry moving forward?
Without being too kumbaya-ish, I feel like we have to be more support of each other. I feel like, a lot of the big companies have shafted each other for so long and compromised and cut fees and all that, and just it's devalued our industry as such. And I feel like we're very privileged to be in a unique handful of agencies that delivers a premium product and probably I know we charge a premium, and I know there's a few agencies out there that do, and I think we deserve to, but we obviously have to deliver the work to justify that. But I feel like, we won't be judged by, I don't want procurement to choose us. You know what I mean? And if it comes down to that, go to a crappy agency that will be complicit and give you what you want. Right. And if you, as I said at the outset, if you're paying us to have an opinion and paying us to think about, put all our collective brains together and work our asses off for your business, then give us a respect. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that the industry needs to be a little bit more united. I mean, it is a cutthroat competitive industry, but at the same time, it's a brilliant industry filled with some spectacular minds and great opportunity. And I think we need to celebrate that more, be more united. And there's so many new agencies that I'm genuinely supportive of that, on some levels, rational levels, are our competition or could be our competition. I don't care. I'm like, you know what? The more agencies that are doing really well, that are elevating the work, elevating how we get paid, it's spread it around. Everyone benefits from it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the International Andy Awards celebrating 50 years and Bravery. So you're leading the jury. You're the main guy this year.
Yeah.
Did you get your gift bag with the fancy watch?
The gold watch with the diamond.
Was it gold?
Rings.
Why did your wrist turn green?
The rest is more diamonds.
Oh, it is. Okay, that's all right. That's what I thought. What have you told your jury about bravery in judging the work?
Well, the thing is, and we're only sort of halfway through it because we haven't actually got together and sat in the same room to start judging.
Right.
But if you look at the names on the jury, I think they've earned the right to be there. So I don't think these people need to be sort of told what bravery is. You know what I mean? I feel like that's their own attitude towards work and what that's sort of that's got them there, right? I mean, it's a well-earned jury.
Right.
I think the whole thing is we're an industry that at some levels has celebrated just great work, and it sort of stops and starts there. And I sort of want to dig a bit deeper and to find out. We've talked a lot about what is the bravery that got us there? Like, what are the things that could have scarpered something along the way, and moments of bravery in any department across the board, because it's not the brave. It's not brave to have a good idea. That doesn't fit in the equation.
Right.
It's brave to present it. It's brave to justify it. It's brave to keep it sold. It's brave to not compromise on it. It's brave to push back on it. It's brave to work past the 11th hour and have your girlfriend, boyfriend pissed off at you. I mean, all these things. There's all these great things
right.
that become part of the process to get something to be extraordinary.
Right.
Instead of just jumping from this is the person who had the idea. Oh, wasn't it great? Give them the award. I feel like I want to sort of celebrate all the moments of bravery from across, and it takes a village, right, to do that.
Yeah.
Not just the creative department. That keep these things great. And I feel like, and that's as much from the client side of things as it is from the the agency side of things. So, we just want to try and recognise that sort of stuff because, bravery moves us forward. These brave decisions across the board have moved our industry forward. They stop us from sort of stagnating, and they stop us from, being repetitive, because that's the worst thing you can be, right? It's repetitive.
Amen to that. What's the bravest thing you hope to do next? Personally, professionally, karmically?
Well, professionally.
I'm from Portland, so you knew you'd get some weirdo thing, right?
Well, I'm from the mountains of Australia, so, I think for me, I don't know whether it's actually not brave, because I feel it's sort of baked into my DNA, which is there's a sort of restlessness and a obsessiveness about not being satisfied with what's now. I'm appreciative of everything, but I'm conscious that for all the goodwill and hype around this agency, it's what we're trying to do tomorrow. I'm looking for bigger canvases, how we can prove that we're evolving and moving our industry forward and doing the right thing by our clients. And at the same time, which is baked into who we are as an agency, trying to do as much good with our talents. We don't say yes to every client. We don't take on every client. We're growing a great business by working with sort of like-minded people.
Right.
And we're very conscious that if we can't just take on any client just to hit numbers, because a client can dilute and pollute if it's the wrong if they've got the wrong mandate to us.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that was a long-winded way of not answering your question.
Good dodge.
No, I don't know. Just
I'm kidding.
I'm kidding. To still care, right? Caring is probably the most in professionally. I think that caring's out of scope.
Right. No. That brings up a good point, because sometimes it's funny how we displace the notion of caring and what caring means.
Well, but professionally, caring, at home, of course, you care about your kids, your family, and your wife.
But professionally,
really caring, not just I want to do well, or I'm ambitious and want to be famous or rich or something like that, but actually caring about the product you produce, the environment you produce it in,
exactly,
and the ramifications of what happens. That's something that you can pretend to, you can fake it, but really caring, it's clients can't, there's not a column that says, okay, I want 5 copywriters, 3 planners, and I want you to care. There's not that doesn't exist. So that's something that has to be baked in and is natural.
No, that's true.
And so I don't want anyone to ever think that me or we are coasting.
Oh, that's the first thing.
Or living off past glories, right?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. No, and I think one of the things that's interesting, we've, you brought up Birnbach and the history and the heritage of this industry. That's still an important part of who we are. But as we move forward,
completely.
It's contextual.
Completely. You look at, it's no coincidence that, the agencies that have been consistently great, are run by people who are creative leaders, but also you just know that they care about what, from Wyden to Hegarty to, Clow. All these people that...
Goodby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These are the same people, their consistency. Their hair may have got grayer or fallen out or they're whatever.
The late Mike Hughes.
Oh, amazing. Another great example. There was passion in it. It wasn't just ambition.
Right.
It wasn't ambition just to be rich or something. It was to contribute positive, contribute something positive. And that's what's amazing, and to be one of those people that can influence a room, a department, an agency, a client, an industry, a community. Who doesn't want to be part of that? Who doesn't want to be part of that? Who doesn't want to use their imagination for positive outcome? That's why I love this industry. That's why I love the opportunity. That's why I think we're blessed and lucky. And all those people that you mentioned, they have good intentions in everything they do, all their work. Doesn't mean every single piece of work they do is spectacular, but there's good intentions in every piece of work. And that's the difference.
We'll leave it at that. David Droga, thank you so much for taking the time. This actually turned into almost an NPR-length show. I appreciate you taking the time. No, it's great. No, it's actually great.
Told you I'm a rambler.
Yeah, no, this one goes on the reel. David Droga, thanks so much for joining us and your continued support of, obviously, the Andy Awards, and we will see you in London during Advertising Week.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.